This video presents a guest lecture by Stina Lundgren Ho on the topic Sportstech innovation. We enter the guest lecture just as Stina presents who she is and her various involvements within sport and innovation.
So, yes. So first of all, one part where I actually get paid. I mean, it's super good with sports and I love it, but a lot of times you don't get paid. But where I do get paid is from Spexa. So it's a startup within sports tech. And we have Anthropy Partners, where I'm a venture partner. I'm also the national team manager for Swedish Jiu-Jitsu Federation and one of the founders of Sportstech Sweden. And I'm also on the board for KTH Center for Sports Engineering. So this is kind of my background, and I will go in a little deeper right now. So what is Spexa? So I have been a part of Spexa since 2019, and we are a B2B deep tech company. And if we have time, I will come back to Spexa and tell you a little about that in the end. Otherwise, you can just reach out to me if you want to know more. But I will start with some other things. And I also said another very important part of this ecosystem is the investors. And here I'm a part of a fund, an American fund, which is called Anthropy Partners. And we are investing in pre-seed, seed companies, and then we do follow-up investments. And what we are working with is human potential. And we're also looking at, when we invest in startups, we are looking at startups that can help each other to develop. And here you see some of the startups and how they interconnect in the case study. So that's also very important when you're working within funding and investors and all those things. How can you also help other startups, actually, when you are a startup, bring value to more people than just yourself? And then I'm, as I said, the national team manager for Swedish Jiu-Jitsu. And within the Jiu-Jitsu family, or the federation, we have 4 different national teams. We have Para, we have Jiu-Jitsu fighting, we have Nivasa, and we also have Judo. And I'm the person doing all the behind work, so to say. I'm not booking travels, but doing all different kinds of things, but also work a lot with athletes and helping them. But we also have different coaches helping them even more. And this year I will step down. So I've been the national team manager during 2024, and now 2025 I will work more on the research and development, which I think is the most interesting and fun part. So that's me. And then as I said, I'm one of the founders. So about 2 years ago, Pontus, Jakob, and I founded Sportstech Sweden. And we also have a board that help us out with different questions that we have. And here you can see 2 different examples of the work that we do. And Sophia, you were at our meetup. So that's one thing that we do. We have meetups, and where I think we have very interesting guests telling different stories about startups, but the ecosystem, and we try to have some sort of theme for each meetup that we have. And then we also, this fall, had our first accelerator that we did together with Business Sweden. And our value proposition, or what Swedish Sportstech Sweden wants to do, is that we want to enable and help startups and investors to learn more and to become better. So that's kind of my background and where I'm coming from now within this area, big area of different people working together. And I'm happy to help you as well if you need. So what I will talk to you about today is sports tech, the markets, and also different frameworks and trends, and then maybe finish up with Spexa. And I would say definitions are not the most fun thing, but it's also very good. So we all talk about the same things. So here, if we're talking about, I mean, Roger presented this definition, and it's a technology, sorry, have to move around a little here. A technology is a design for instrumental actions that reduces the uncertainty in the cause-effect relationship involved in achieving a desired outcome. A technology usually has two components, a hardware aspect and a software aspect. And that's just the first one. And then we go on, and then we find the first, definitions relation to Sportstech. And here we have different area where the first category primarily includes physical technology, hardware. And then we have the second category, which is focused more on data management and the processing of data, like AI and machine learning. And then we have the third category, and that includes human interaction through information and communication. And I think it's very important because, you have heard all about how big the ecosystem is around it, even from the first lecture. We were talking about that, and then now we also have the different, we want to have the framework so we can talk about, it's like one of you said that, oh, I'm interested in human performance. Okay, but from what perspective? Is it from the coach perspective, or is it from the athletes? Or, and we all collect the data. What data are we talking about? So we need this framework to actually be able to connect. And I will use this framework also later when we discuss those things. So first of all, we have the purple one, which is for the athletes, then we have for fans, and we have for executives. I don't have to go through all this, but you see this in front of you. And I think for me, it helps also to distinguish, but also understand how an ecosystem and a market is built up. And then we also have, how do we look at the entrepreneurs within this ecosystem? We have the researchers, we have everyone, but if we are looking into the entrepreneur, and I think highlighting the fact that sports-based entrepreneurship should rather be viewed as a series on components in a process where sports is the central driving force. So, all this you can read. And please, if you have any questions, I know this is not really where you have questions, but anyways. And here is the first one. And here is one of the first where you can go and find your more information yourself. So on all you see that I have put up, I don't see if you see when I'm moving around, but for the Sport Pulsar VC report. So that's where you can go in and find a report, which using different sources. And I have done this so you can see on each of the different frames that I am showing, or images, you can find where I found the information, so you can go back and read it yourself, because there is much more from where this one came from. And this is, you also have to be very careful to look now, because this is the European. You have to think, is it global? Is it European? Is it the APEC? Is it North America? So you have to be careful and not to, because it's very different. And also if it's a global report or not. But this one is Europe. And here we see that Sweden is in position 5. And this is between 2000 and 2024, which is quite a big step. And we can also see that they forecast that the CAGR will be 17%. So we will keep growing. And when I say we, I mean Sportstech. And here we can see how funding has changed developed over the years. And here is the figures taken from Sportstech X ecosystem report earlier this year. They had several different reports that they present during the year. This is from the ecosystem report. And here the blue is fans, the purple is athletes, and green management and organization, the same as we said before. And in North America, we can see that the most of the funding is going to fans and content, which is quite a lot. And that's, so also here you can see that on the top row, then it's between 2019 and 2023. And then on the lower row, it's only for 2023. And I think it's very interesting to see and compare how not only how different areas is changing, but also different years. Where does the funding go? How is the ecosystem developing? And if we compare the APAC, I mean, then you see that fans is huge. But when we see here in Europe, then you see the athletes area is so much bigger, which is kind of none here. So it's very different depending on where you are, where the investments is landing, and what you think is important. Not you, but the investors. So that's one part that I wanted to show you. And I think it's really nice that they have divided in North America, APAC, and Europe. And in 2021, I wrote a report called Sportstech, Swedish Sportstech #3 in Europe, or something like that. And I think I'm quite proud of that, because that has been a ground making it easier for different people in Sweden to have all the information in one place, and also to see how Sweden has developed during those years. So the numbers are not old, but a little old here. And here we can also see how Sweden still is a little different from Europe. But here we were very, very strong when it came to organization and those, and compared to Europe, where the athletes were the biggest one. So for me, it's very interesting also to see how different countries are developing in different areas, and they are stronger in some areas, but also maybe where the investors know more or less in different areas. So I think that's also something to pinpoint and to understand, and if you're interested, dive deeper into. And another thing when we are talking, it's also what kind of business models are startups using? How are they interacting? Where do they earn their money? And here we can see how before business to consumer, B2C, was very big, but now we are more and more looking into B2B solutions, because you have to have, when you're working B2C, you have to have a lot of money behind you that can help you doing commercial and PR. And it's much easier if you're a company, if you start working with other companies. Maybe then you have one or two products going out to B2C, but when you start your own company, think about those things. So you know how much money will you have, how fast will you actually burn, what burn rate will you have? So important things to have it back in your mind. And here, as I said, great, you have to think about, here we have the global Sportstech. And here we can see, if we look, 2023, the money, or it says 2024 there, that you can see like, oh, on a global thing, the economy within Sportstech is going up, more investments. Now I will go back and forth a little, but here you see that in Europe, that's not really the case. It's not going upwards, okay? Then we're going back to looking at B2B compared to B2C. There we see that if on a global sports, I mean, then we have B2C is one of the biggest one. But then if we go here, Europe, here, here B2B is getting bigger. So it's very interesting to compare those two. And here I see that they actually done a mistake because they have changed the colors. So that's why I was a little, yeah. So but also here, if you're looking at funding per sector, as I said before, you can go in and you see that here in Europe, all of them are more or less the same. But if we are going back on a global scale, then we have the fans. So I think those things are very interesting. And yeah, and also here you have the different countries and what city that have the biggest. And this, again, we had to think, where are we now? Well, this is on a global scale, not only Europe, but global. And here we can see that athlete focus is now down to 24 compared to 35 before. But in Europe, we saw the difference. So it's, where are you? Where do you want to work? What kind of startups do you have? If you're going to, and what startups are you going to work with? Because, you know, in different areas, there will probably be more startups within a certain area. So here is also just the background. And as I said, here you can find all the Sportstech reports to dive deeper into. But also, we have talked about B2B, B2C, but also how does B2B work and how does B2C work? And here we can see that the market is very stable now. You see that Sportstech, it's been around for a while. We know more about it, and it's growing steadily, and it's not like a massive, but it's more steady. So it's there, it will still be here. But how will we make money? How will you get more customers? And here you also see different ways. So paid in-app, or advertising. So it's more, what I want to show with this image is more that there are different ways to earn your money, and how can you do this? So this becomes quite a lot of economic talk, or how does it work? But that's a big part of how can you support yourself, and also where is the money, because that's where a lot of the startups looking. I'm not going to do any deep.
Yeah. Stina, can we stop and see if there are any questions?
Sure.
Do any one of you have any questions on these numbers? Or any reflections on the numbers?
Maybe one from my, maybe it wasn't clear, but is there any area that is growing more globally in terms of investment size?
I mean, if we look at the images, then depending on where you are.
Yeah, exactly. Like from the global.
Yeah, then fans is very important, because that's also, and if you're looking at North America and Asia, fans is super important.
But I meant more on the like localization geographically. Is there any area where it's like from the total share of investment in sports, like where the amount is actually growing, or where the most like growth is currently? Is there anything you have data on that?
You mean where they add more money into the
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so how much money? I mean, I don't know. It is in the last report. To be honest, I don't know the figures. I always forget the figures, so that's why I always lean to the reports. And Sportstech, it was just a few weeks ago when Ron and the team like published the latest one, and then it's only on investments and not the ecosystem, but more on the investments. And yeah, I don't dare to say anything, but I mean, if we compare 2021 with now, it's a huge gap. But what I can say is that more investors are getting up on the horse again, so to say. And a lot of, because during this time, several startups you talk about the market consolidate, that more and more startups come together. So because they are too small by themselves. So for example, Spexa, we have bought 2 other companies, because Zone 7, which was about the same size as us before, and another also. So more startups is combining their knowledge, becoming bigger. So that's one thing with the market. And also that hopefully, I mean, the trend is going upwards now, that with because okay, so one the investors, they need to get their money from somewhere. And if we're looking, the stock market is going up. So when the stock market is going up, then the investors also get more money, because then they can get out more money from the other ones. So then the economy starts rolling again. So I hope that people will be able to start invest again. But also when we are looking at LPs, so we're talking about investors, they also need to get their money from somewhere. So it's the huge money from behind that is also start coming slowly in. So the funds are getting money, so the funds can start investing. So I mean, I cross my fingers that next year will be a better year. But I don't know. But it's the same in all markets. So also in health and everywhere. So it's the same.
Super.
I'm sorry, I didn't. It was a big question or a big answer.
Thanks.
Stina, what about the differences between an athlete focus in Europe and a fan focus in Asia? How is that, and does it matter, or what does it tell us?
Oh, I haven't really thought about that. I can't give you an answer. I mean, no, but it's also, I mean, it shows that, or I would say that fan engagement, and also it's esport a lot, because fan engagement and esports is in Asia is very high. So it's much more about that aspect than in Europe, but also where I can be very philosophical about that, but I can't say for sure. So I think I don't right now.
Actually, I was going to bring up this same question, or a similar question to Jonas, because it was very interesting to compare the sectors of North America versus Europe. Because in Europe, it seemed that innovation in sports seems to be more towards the athletes and that side, while in North America, it was more for the fans engagement and etc. And well, it's hard to tell why that is, but maybe North America, like their culture is more commercialized around sports, like NHL. I'm thinking baseball and etc. And so it's more commercialized in that sense for fans. And but I wonder if there's a future for Europe to progress in that way.
Yes, I would say that before. So when I started with this in 2018, and then I got very hooked, and then we were visiting all like NHL clubs and listening to the basketball and NBA, they were already there in 2018. And then I came back to Sweden, and I went to Tele2 Arena and try to ask them. It's like, what's going on? What's happening? It's like, fan engagement. And it's also who owns the stadium. Do the football club own their own stadium or not? And there we can also see it's like, okay, now when it's easier with the digital. Then even if you don't own your own stadium, you can start to have your digital stadium, and you can do more with the fan engagement than you could before, because you were not really ready then, or everybody with the smartphones and everything, as when you went to Sharks or Golden, NBA. I mean, they were already there. They had their own arena. They were doing a lot of things and using the data. They had the smart stadiums. I mean, we're not, if we're looking at Sweden, we're not really there. I will show you a little, but if you're looking at Barca, they are rebuilding their stadium to be able to use it for a lot of different sports. Sorry, I have a fly in my eye. They have a lot of different sports now, and engaging everything. And with Camp Nou, I was there a few weeks, and they rebuilding everything, and they have the museum, they have everything around there, which is like an amusement park instead of just going and watch football. So it is changing in the different areas, but it's just that also Europe is behind. And in Europe, a lot of the clubs still have the 51% role as well, if you're talking about football. So it's not as commercial. It's still commercial, but it's not as commercial because it's the members owning this in the club. So that's also very interesting to see how is the football company actually built. Well, I see that the time is running out. I can speak. I noticed that I can say a lot of things, but yeah. But is it okay if I keep going? Okay. So if you're just looking at the key considerations for future sports, it's a little like what we talked about, but just to know about them, to think about them, and where you want to add your value if you're starting a startup or thinking about those things. And also with trends, here we come back a little to what we're asking. It's like, how will AI do? So those trends are, I took them from ISPO's homepage. So there are, if you go into ISPO, and they have those trends, and different experts tell you what they think about the future. And here you have esports, you have fitness tech, what is going to happen with that? And also, can we get more money somewhere? Yeah, where do we have mass precipitation? Where can more people start using the tech that we want to deliver? And live experience, which this makes me super happy, because for a while people were talking about that, oh, live sport is dead. And now it's like, no, it's not dead. It's just maybe in a different way, but people will still want to see live sports. How can we engage? And also, as we said, smart stadiums, what's happening there? And with AI, how do we optimize training plans? How can we use AI in a good way to help our athletes perform better? So I think I like those when I went in and read them. So, and here we're back to the Pulsar, which I mentioned before. And I think what they have done is quite a nice way to display different, so within different sports, how you can think about the different areas within one sport. So also, how can we use AI and big data? So I didn't want to say much more than that, but there are a lot of different things helping and pushing the different sports forward. And also stadiums, what is happening? And it was the same, like I said before, coming back to Barcelona is putting a lot of money in there, and also Real Madrid is doing a lot of things as well with their smarts, and a lot of them are putting ropes. So we have, so you can use them all year round, no matter what kind of weather you have. So that's also a big difference what's happening now. super important. Next generation of fans. How can we use that data? And the future impact of younger people. What will happen with sports? And this was taken from Deloitte and their Future of Sports report from 2023. And here we can learn a lot of different things. This report was really good. They had I really liked it, a lot of information about different areas and different sports and how to think. So I can really recommend that one. Yes, but we are in Sweden. What's happening in Sweden? So are there any questions now about the market before we move into, I don't see everybody, but then I move into the group of Swedish Sportstech. And those figures, Pontus, were went through a lot of information about the Swedish ecosystem, and he put this together. So it's not, I haven't done this, it's Pontus that should have all the credit about this, going through all the numbers of, and one thing that we have in Sweden that not everybody else is allabolag.se. So if you want to look a company up, what's going on, how is it going for them? Are they a big company? How many people are working there? You can always go in there. It's a super good source to see. So I really recommend that one because it's a luxury in Sweden that we actually have that one. So use it. I do it not every day, but quite a lot. So we have grown. So 2020 was the year with the figures that I had in the report. And this is the figures is from a meetup that we have had this spring. So we think that there are about 131 Swedish Sportstech startups in Sweden right now. And it's 50% more than actually in 2020. So that's really good. And that means that we are about 4% of the total number in Europe. And unfortunately, 10 died last year because of the economic situation. And there might be even more startups that are not alive anymore. And if you find some, because I'm going to this one. So if I know this needs to be updated, this map, but it's nice and helpful to see a little bit how the ecosystem looks like in Sweden. I know that some things are not working here anymore. For example, Sportstech Analytics is not really up and running, but there are other networks. So I know this one needs to be updated, but if you see something that this is not true anymore, please let us know. You just go to Sportstech Sweden's homepage and report it. Or if you know about startups that should be on here, please, we really want to know because it's helping everyone. I just wanted to show the map. So what's happening? Well, over 1,013 people is employed in Sweden within the Sportstech ecosystem, which is super good within the startups. And we have 1.6 billion SEK in turnover. So that is plus 27% from previous year. And yeah, we are more people working within Sportstech than maybe we thought. So, and if we're looking here, we have the biggest companies in Sweden. We have Fishbrain, Speedeo, Boxbollen, Matchy, and Stay Live. I will give you a short introduction to each one of those, but we have also several, which we call fast growers. And here you have Horsetech. And we have, if we're looking at Horsetech, we have several startups within this area. So Sweden is quite good there. So if you're interested in horses, look up. And they also had their own homepage before, or network with horse tech startups. I haven't seen much lately, but they did have that. So, but if we're looking at Fishbrain, which is one of our most successful Swedish startups within, they started in 2009. So they have been around for quite some time, and it's an app where you find where to fish, and you can also, it's more a social app, I would say. So that's interesting, and where you can find best spots to fish. Speedeo, I guess most of you have heard about it. They also started, they started in 2012. Maybe one thinks, oh, it was COVID, but no, they started much earlier than that. So it's a complete solution for sports video recording. But also, I think what's important here is they also do analysis and broadcasting. So you can get that help. So depending on what you want, you can go in and use their services for different areas. And then Boxbollen, I thought that was, when I saw it, I always thought that it might be one of these small, kind of stupid, but they make a lot of money. And it is, so what you also have, you have an app. So it's not only this ball on your head, which I thought it was first. And now when I looked into it, it's also really a tech. So you can have competitions and everything within that area. So it's more than what I saw from the beginning. And they have grown very much. And they started out 2018. So they are a young company, I would say, in comparison with the other ones. And then Machi, and they also started in 2012. So I see something here, which I think is super interesting, that it takes time. It takes at least 10 years, except for Boxbollen, to become a serious company and earn a lot of money. And not only for the deep tech companies, but also for those platform companies. So you have to not be stressed, I would say. And Machi, they wanted to make it easier for everyone to do racket sports. And they are not only in Sweden, it's a multinational company now. So it's a scale up more than a startup. And Stay Live, it's also a broadcasting company, but they don't not have the analysis tools, what I could read from, compared to Speedeo. So if we're looking here we have the big ones, and then we have a lot of fast growers over here. So that was more about the Swedish startups. Are there any questions or anything you want to say about that? No, I see you don't seem to have. No, okay. Then I just make a short presentation about Svexa, the startup where I'm also part of. And I really like this, unlock your potential. And can we do that? Yes, I hope so. So Svexa started in 2018 and I came on in 2019. And as I said, we are a B2B deep tech company and we are working with data and AI. And when we started in 2018 and also, 2019, 2020, nobody knew what AI was. We were talking about our algorithms. Nobody knew what an algorithm was. So it's so much easier now than it was then. But this also pushed us, I would say, even though it took time for us to understand what did happen. So what do? We use a wide range of data sources, from simple questionnaires to wearables and sensors. We clean the data, we analyze it, and what we do is that we deliver actionable insights. So we are not an AMS system. We are the intelligence layer on top of the AMS system, which is a big difference, because we are looking at all this data, but we analyze the data. We are not the one collecting the data. We are analyzing the data. And the more data, the better. But we can also work with very little data. And that's also how we can work with elite athletes, but also with amateurs. But of course, the more data you have, the better we can help you or give you more information. As I said, when we started in 2019, nobody really knew what we were doing. We know what we were doing, but nobody really understood what we were doing. We had the algorithms, but the people that we talked to, they wanted to have something to try. They wanted to feel it, to understand what we were doing. And that was how Elida was born. And Elida generates individualized, optimized training plans for endurance sport and strength training. But it took like 3 years to actually develop that into a really good product that we have today. So now we are selling it to other startups, like, Race ID, which is another Swedish company. So we are helping them. And also with Lidingö-loppet, we were helping Lidingö-loppet have a plan for that. So we are working with different, and also, I mean, we are an international, I didn't say that, but we are based in US, but we are also have people all over the world, here in Sweden, in Poland, in Turkey, all over. So we are about 40 people working. And one thing that I really enjoy with Spexa is that we have our in-house science team, which validates and also push with new insights. And Philip and his team have several ongoing studies. And an important strength with Spexa, as I said, is that we take all your data into consideration. And as we are a B2B company, we have to be able to help our customers. So if they have questions, we have to help them develop new products. And one of those products, which people want, especially if you have an ANS system, would be player passport or athlete passports, where we give insights into you personal. Where are your strengths and weaknesses? How can we help you in the future? And here you see some examples of our products. We have very simple, for example, Readiness Advisor. It's free. It's an app which you can use. And I know several national teams using this just to help to see where are you, what score do you have today. It's very subjective. You just answer questions to vary with your digital twin and your own the recommendation engines. So what's happening in the future for Spexa? We keep developing Elida, and now we have it stable for running, cycling, and strength training, but we want to combine different sports because it's very seldom that you only do one sport. If you're a runner, you should do strength training and running. And also if you're a triathlon, then you have the biking, the running, and the swimming, and you want to combine those. So that's a big thing that we're working on right now. And also to make passports made for everyone, not only the elite, but also make it easier to be able to get your own passport. And we're also working a lot with and combining Zone 7's products with Spexa products, as we are now, the two of us are now one company. So that's an important part. So thank you for everything. So I stop sharing now.
That was the end of the guest lecture. With this, we thank Stina for her presentation and for sharing important insights from the Sportstech domain. For those that are interested in the reports that was mentioned during the talk, please have a look at these links or do a search on Sportstech X. Thank you for watching.